Hi guys, I'm Nate from Good Mayhem Racing. This is the 4Runner that we raced the Baja 1000 in, and while we were in Mexico, we earned a lot of damage to this truck. Damage to the frame, to the subframe, to the rear axle, and to some of our electronics, in particular the turn signals and the parking lights. The side marker lights, like the orange things you see there, all the ones on the left fell off. I broke them off. The mounts broke, they flew out of the truck, and they took the wiring harnesses with them. So then we had this dangling wires, and when they shorted, we blew a whole bunch of fuses all the way to the interior of the truck where we were losing lights on our dash. To prevent that from happening, I made a product that can help address that, to help reduce that risk. Let me explain. You're looking at a new turn signal. This underlight is just the turn signal relocated. Most of the time when people have an off-road bumper, the off-road bumpers don't have a solution for the turn signals. There might be this little orange puck or something that can be mounted to it. There might be a random LED strip that gets mounted onto it, and those are fine solutions, but usually they are the afterthought of the bumper design, not everything else. The primary being the winch or the off-road lights, but the turn signals, meh. Most aftermarket bumpers are not going to care about that. Third gen 4Runner guys normally would relocate their turn signal to the side marker light. The side marker light is merely the parking light, the driving light, the light that is the outside indicator for what this truck, like the border of the truck. And whenever someone has the turn signal in here, it's either the additional LED is flashing right next to this thing, so it kind of gets washed out a little bit, or there is an LED strip that someone glues to the side of the side marker so then the turn signal can be seen. That's actually how I had mine set up for the Baja 1000. This is only mounted to the truck in 2 points. There's a pin on the bottom side and there's a bolt on the top side underneath the hood. The mount where that bolt is broke. When I was driving in Mexico, maybe around mile 250 or something like that, in the Baja 1000, the top portion of this assembly broke, and as I was driving along, I made this thing go away, right? This thing fell out the front and then was just loosely flailing up and down as we were driving through the whoops at speed. And when this thing finally broke and pulled the wiring harnesses with it, it didn't just damage one wiring harness, it damaged two, because it was both the parking system and the turn signals. I saw a spark, maybe multiple sparks, I don't know, and then I lost a lot of lights in the dash. Actually, a whole bunch of fuses went when both of these systems went offline. So the solution for off-road racing, since this is still a street legal car, and I still have to have hazards, and since I still have an OEM relay system, I might as well keep the markers. Why not separate them again? Instead of having both lights in the side marker or really close to it, now the wiring harness of the turn signal is isolated again from the side marker lights, just like the OEM setup was back in the 90s. It's no longer the bumper, it is higher up and out of the way, and it's also separated from this. So if this breaks or this breaks, they're not necessarily compromising each other. I think that's a great idea. Good enough to the point where I decided to hold a group buy, a community effort to invest in developing a product and selling it is usually called a group buy. A group buy is usually at a discount where people are paying a much lower dollar value on getting a whole bunch of product that's already available or making a new one. For example, Descent Off-Road usually releases their new off-road products, like the rear bumper for the GX460. They released that as a group buy. They had to have so many minimum pre-orders before they could justify the cost of making that product line launch. They had a lot of difficulty with that. Another example of a group buy is like Total Chaos. When I bought my long travel suspension for the truck back in 2017, 2018, it was with a group buy. True, it's a product that already exists and is well recognized, but they had a group buy for the Toyota4runner.org group, and I was able to save some coin that way. That's cool and all, but that's a group buy of a developed product. The group buy of the Descent Off-Road is a product that's mostly developed, but the product line is not released. They don't have a full manufacturing method for it really to make it cost viable. And for a set of underlights like this, if you were to buy them from SRQ Fabrication and something like that, it's usually the piece of sheet metal that Toyota makes, either from a salvage yard or it's a new part. I don't know how they necessarily make it, but companies like them will just drill LEDs into the surface and then they'll mount it back to the truck. Sure, you can get the stuff paint matched that way. It's a cool metal part, but the metal is on a plastic piece and that piece bends and breaks over time and fatigues. The other side is bolted. I thought that the bolt was a brilliant idea and should happen on both sides of your lighting assembly, and you can't do that necessarily with the metal ones. 3D printing is a logical answer for that problem. If I want to have the solution of a more durable mounting connection, I can physically use the original bolt that the turn signal mounts to on the inside behind the grill, and also the one that mounts the fenders together. So now we have this plastic on metal connection over here, a plastic on plastic connection over here. So as the 3D printed material heats up and expands during the summer and contracts during the winter, because it's on this plastic side, it actually has a little bit of give. Most of the time, plastic and materials like it really struggle with temperature fluctuations, and the way that I think I have this designed will be beneficial for anybody in extreme temperatures. Granted, it's made out of PETG, which is kind of the lowest standard of outdoor material that you can manufacture with a 3D printer. Ideally, it's made out of ABS or ASA, and I'm trying to get there with this group buy, but I'm going to weld through all of my PETG first, making these underlights. Let's look at some ways on how this stuff is actually made. Okay, these are the underlight bodies. These are the 3D printed parts, PETG in this case. Ideally, they will be made out of ASA long term, and they hold the inside of an LED light, and they bolt to the light on the truck and the fenders on the outside. Okay, so these are the underlight bodies, and they come with a set of LEDs and lenses in the group buy. This is a row of 18 amber LEDs. There's also white for the people who want to use these as driving lights, but it keys into the bottom of the mount, so then it protects it from the spring. You can push it in, so it's actually held by its own force in place, and that's the light. That's it. And can you see my fingers behind it? Well, that makes it have a brighter appearance. You can take the plastic that comes with it and mount it on this assembly as well. What's really cool about this is that this will actually physically black out the color of the lens and give it a smoky, darker texture, and that makes it look really clean and professional. I like that a lot. So this design had to incorporate ways to mount it to the truck, ways to mount it to the lens, and then from there give a lens a little bit of extra character with the grommet that comes with it. I have gone through 9 complete revisions of the truck. This was the original one, made out of PLA. I did some impact testing for fun, and it mounts the light from the front, as in this thing feeds wires through the back of it and then bolts it on the back side. What's really cool about this is that it gives the light a real nice wide appearance, but then you can see the original mounting bolts, and that's not very pretty. So there's a better way to do it, and that happened later. This was revision 4. This is actually what the group buy was originally sold on from an appearance standpoint. When people were checking out the group buy originally, this was the version that was actually on my truck. It was very much like revision 1, except it had some new distinct features to it. Most of which is this new end back here that allows more opening and more clearance to work on mounting it to the truck. Now we have a much larger hole for the bolt to go through rather than a random pilot hole. Same with these sides. And then you can see how far off my bolts were. I did a bad job measuring it, but both of these still mounted the light on the back and gave it a real nice wide field of view, but still an ugly appearance with those bolts. Revision 6 is where I gave it this little spring clearance, so then you can mount it to the fender and still have plenty of flexibility to mount it to the light. Not all the lights are made the same, so if someone has a light mount that's shorter or longer, this compensates for it. And now there's also a wider bolt, so then you can physically clock it up and down compared to your fender. And then this has a longer face on this outside, so then it's addressing the slop and tolerance of the ABS mounts that the headlights are bolted to. What's also really cool about this is that it gives this part some room to expand and contract with temperature, so then it's just not all binding and warping up everywhere. A lot of times when people have products that warp from like being exposed to the sun or extreme cold and stuff, it's material dependent and also constraint dependent. So even though this is made out of PETG, by having these looser tolerances here to work around, that will help make this material last longer. The thing that will really make this though for long term, especially like in a production setting, because I do want to sell these commercially long term after the group buy, would be making these out of a higher temperature material, and that would be ASA. ASA is a hybrid material that's based upon ABS. And what's really cool about it is that it's exceptionally UV resistant, it's exceptionally weather resistant, and much more so than PETG, which I am making from here. So ideally, like once I figure out the shape in the manufacturing method really well with PETG, and once I run out of these materials during the group buy, I will switch to ASA, and that will be a permanent change. ASA is extremely toxic though. That styrene portion can actually poison you and cause some really bad health issues in your home. So if you're going to manufacture with ASA, it needs to be in some place that's ventilated. Oh, look at all those super cool underlights. When it comes to ventilating stuff like ASA, ventilation, airflow is everything, but it needs to be in a place that's stable environmentally. So like when I have the door closed, I can still get air to flow out of the house because I'm using the actual fan of the bathroom and it won't stink up the house. Some cool features about my little 3D printing setup here. That's the printer, that's the dryer. Spare equipment can be stored here, like build plates and stuff, extra tools and spare filaments. But that's also a battery backup. It is one of the higher 900 watt true sine wave generator UPSs, uninterruptible battery power supply. So if I lose power or something like that, the printer can keep going. It's pretty snug though. It's an X1 carbon. There's the sink, there's the toilet, and there is the fan. So I am just waiting for when it makes sense to manufacture with ASA, because a Jeeper actually helped me get to this point. About the group buy, all of these parts you've seen to this point are for Toyota 3rd generation 4Runners, that 96 to 2002. Where do we go to from there? The general community with the 3rd gen 4Runner groups have been wonderful and helping make this group buy happen. I have over 100 pre-orders into this group buy. I've ordered over 100 special wiring harnesses so then people can plug and play directly into their OEM wiring harness. Over 100 LEDs have been sourced, or 200 I should say, because you know there's two sides to every group buy, right? And there are 2 printers that are manufacturing. We have a 3rd printer coming online. And this is the printer that will be able to produce ASA parts. The other 2 printers are going to be limited to PETG. And I'm doing about 3 to 5 Underlight kits a day. And I will ship them out in batches and stages, but I really need to have the shipping carrier really set up for that to make it cost effective. So this process of the group buy hasn't only been a Kickstarter, if you will, of making this manufacturing method happen and this product actually be sellable. It's also been a supply chain learning experience, learning how to run a business for resale and stuff, not just for off-road racing. I've been really stoked by that. The 3rd Gen 4Runner community has been very gracious and super encouraging about that. The group buy went live about 16 days ago. And from that point, when I first posted photos of the 4Runner with revision 4, I've been through 5 complete revisions in there. And I'm now like on 9.1 and I'm kind of traversing on 9.2. But out of all of the features that I've been able to figure out so far with this group buy, the one I have not been able to do is something called sequential LEDs, switchbacks. An LED that can alternate from white to amber and to have a cool JDM style lighting effect where the lights go from one side to another. Those LEDs are very expensive. Sure, they've got circuitry and stuff like that, but really people are buying those things at a premium to the point where it's just not cost feasible for me to develop the underlight, make the underlight, and then sell it with the sequential at this time. So for the people that want a sequential LED kit for their underlight, I'm willing to make the underlight for them, but I need to have the sequential LEDs. So if someone has like a cool XK glow setup or something like that, that they want me to make with a sequential light, I'm actually doing it. So if someone buys the Diode Dynamics kit, a random kit on Amazon, I'm actually designing a unique underlight for their product so then they can enjoy their lights as they please. The other thing that's really nice about that is that as I get more lights to model around, that gives me more data points to figure out the real product line later, because that's my end goal. My end goal is to provide this product commercially, like outside of this group buy, as in something that I am actually selling to people and they are buying, and that is actually being used to fund my off-road racing. The 3rd Gen 4Runner is a thing. Someone let me borrow their Toyota Tacoma so I can model around that for the 1st generation. So I'm also working on that right now as well. The 1st Gen Tacomas for this. 4th Gen 4Runners have also been requested, and the future is bright from there. So thank you guys so much for watching. For people in the group buy, thank you so much for your patience. Here's an example of everything that we've done so far, and it's only getting more from there. So I will see you guys out in the desert, if not my garage. And for everyone in the group buy, I just want to reiterate something that I provided you up front, and that is, if you have any issues with these, this is a research and development effort. I'm learning how to make a product, how to design it, and at $50 a hit, it's a low enough risk for you that it's a fun thing to experience with and give feedback on. And then from there, it's not so much of a risk for me that I'm not willing to sell a perfect product now so I can learn enough about it and sell a good enough product later. So thank you guys so much for watching. Like and subscribe for more. And for the people that are a part of the group buy, I'm looking forward to your feedback. And here's progress that we have so far. Catch you later. Okay. You want to do your running lights? Not your...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just do your parking lights. Yeah. Later, Robert.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a good drive home.
Thank you. We'll talk soon.
Heck yeah.